Spiritual Gumbo, Genesis chapter 21. And we're just going to really take it easy on this one because I want to read this chapter, the better part of it. I don't really want to get too far into, I really don't even want to get into the days of Isaac. So much so as I want to do my review on these last chapters. But we're going to read this. Yeah, this whole chapter we're going to read. And we're going to do this the proper way, the right way. Verse 5. And remember, we're let's not leaving off. Again, Abraam tries to pull the slicky Rickster, right? Because he's not lying, but at the same time, you're being almost disingenuous to not tell these people that she is your wife. Now, at what point it would have taken? I don't know what sort of witchcraft or sorcery or magic or what was used, or just if Sarah just one day slipped up and just said, yeah, me and Abraham are married to Pharaoh. I don't know what happened. I do know this much though. We were never told that Pharaoh never touched her. That is not a thought put in your minds. So I just want you guys to really understand again why Agar the Egyptian was chosen out of all the women that could have been chosen by Sarah for Abraham to take as a wife. Verse 5. And Abraam was 100 years old when Isaac, his son, was born to him. And Sarah said, the Lord has made laughter for me, for whoever shall hear shall rejoice with me. And she said, who shall say to Abraham that Sarah suckles a child? For I have borne a child in my old age. And the child grew and weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the day that his son Isaac was weaned. And Sarah, having seen the son of Agar the Egyptian was born to Abraham, sporting with Isaac her son, then she said to Abraham, cast out thy bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not inherit with my son Isaac. But the word appeared very hard before Abraham concerning his son. But God said to Abraham, let it not be hard before thee concerning the child, and concerning the bondwoman. And all things whatever Sarah shall say to thee, hear her voice. For in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And moreover, I will make the son of this bondwoman a great nation, because he is thy seed. And Abraham rose up in the morning, and took loaves, and a skin of water, and gave them to Agar, and put the child on her shoulder, and sent her away. And she, having departed, wandered in the wilderness, near the well of the oath. Stop right there. Women were clearly stronger back then. Okay? Now, why this dude wasn't making his 14-year-old son walk all on his own, I have no idea, other than to say that she has to treat her son like the great man that he's going to become. It's deep, isn't it? I know it doesn't seem righteous, but it actually does make sense. It's almost like shouldering the burden in a more literal sense. I don't mean to laugh. I just find humor in a very sad situation. And here we go. Verse 15. And the water failed out of the skin, and she cast the child under a fir tree, And she departed and sat down opposite him at a distance, as it were a bow shot. For she said, Surely I cannot see the death of my child. And she sat opposite him. And the child cried aloud and wept. And God heard the voice of the child from the place where he was. And an angel of God called Agar out of heaven and said to her, What is it, Agar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the child from the place where he is. Rise up and take the child, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of springing water. And she went and filled the skin with water. Now stop right there. Did you notice how the Most High God opened her eyes? You see how, boom, changed the spectrum on her real quick so she could see that? Come on now. Come on now. Do you think that she was doing all this with her eyes closed? Come on now. Man, the scripture is so deep. But note how strong of a woman she is to have once carried her son on her shoulders. Number two, had the sense and the wherewithal, because she didn't have anything else to feed the little boy, right? Now, people can contend that Abraam tried to set them up to die, but that's not what happened. That's not what happened. Abraam is like, the Most High has said through the Lord that this is what needs to be done. So I'm going to do it. And by his will, these things will happen. Now note, the child is crying out. Right? And the mother is like, I just don't have the heart to watch my son die. Because she's pretty sure he's going to die of starvation or whatever before she does. Right? And note, we're going to assume that this is the Most High who's in the heavens who hears all these things, right? And we're going to say that the angel who's speaking, it doesn't even matter who the angel is on this level, but I would assume it's the angel that hears the prayers of people. And I can't think of which angel that is right now. But they hear all the prayers. So I do know that Remiel is the angel who sits over those, he presides over those who rise, right? So it could have been Remiel who answered. I don't know. Once again, I ponder a lot of things when I read this stuff, and I can't stress but to just give it to you while I'm reading it, just to tell it to you. Well, let's just keep reading. Now notice, a bow shot distance is a good distance. It's not like she was clearly probably like 100 meters from the boy. She's opposite of him. They're in the wilderness, right? Does it say that they're in the desert? No, it says they're in the wilderness. Right. We'll just keep it pushing and just keep reading. Verse 19 again. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of springing water. And she went and filled the skin with water, and gave the child drink. And God was with the child, and he grew, and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness, and his mother took him a wife out of Paran of Egypt. And it came to pass at the time that Abimelech spoke, and Okazak his friend, and Pico the chief captain of his host, to Abraam, saying, God is with thee in all things, whatsoever thou mayest do. Now therefore swear to me by God that thou wilt not injure me, nor my seed, nor my name, but according to the righteousness which I have performed with thee, that thou shalt deal with me, and with the land that thou hast sojourned. And Abraam said, I will swear. And Abraam reproved Abimelech because of the wells of water which the servants of Abimelech took away. And Abimelech said to him, I know not who has done this thing to thee, neither didst thou tell it me. neither heard neither heard it I, but only today. And Abraam took sheaves and calves and gave them to Abimelech, and both made a covenant. And Abraam set seven ewe lambs by themselves. And Abimelech said to Abraam, what are these 7 ewe lambs which thou hast set alone? And Abraam said, thou shalt receive the 7 ewe lambs of me, that they may be for me as a witness that I dug this well. Therefore he named that place the well of the oath, for there they both swore. Now stop right there. Do you know how long it takes to dig a well? So Abraham has, you could assume that Abraham was obviously digging with his servants, but you have to put it in your mind that Abraham clearly must have made his servants to dig the well with him, right? And as opposed to having somebody else do something, right? Or you could say he began to dig the well. The well was going to be dug, right? And there was no one else there with him. So the 7 lambs, but he already gave them sheep and calves. So the fact that they couldn't be witnesses, but he picked 7 ewe lambs, 7 young lambs, right on. And if I'm not mistaken, let me look this up real quick. One second. Yeah, it's a female lamb. That's right. I was pretty sure. But, you can't ever be too sure. They want to step on my own toes. But, yeah, it's a female lamb. So, and they're unweaned, so they're still little babies. Right on? And you got 7 little baby girls, pretty much, to be the witnesses. You guys remember the ewe lamb prophecy later on for King David? We need to get off of that. Verse 31. Therefore he named the name of that place the well of the oath, for there they both swore. And they made a covenant at the well of the oath. And there rose up Abimelech, Okazah, his friend, and Phicol, the commander in chief of his army. And they returned to the land of the Philistines. And Abraam planted a field at the well of the oath, and called on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraam sojourned in the land of the Philistines many days. Now stop right there. When it speaks on, and it says the name of the Lord, the everlasting God, right? It doesn't say that every time. It does not say that every time. I can't stress that to you guys enough. The writers literally translated and transliterated it to where there would be so much confusion to the reader. That's why wisdom, knowledge, and understanding are so crucial. I'm going to stop reading here because this next part is about probably one of the most important instances that takes place in the entire scripture. One of the most important things that takes place, and you could say this is one of the most important things post flood or post Pangea, I guess. Because you can put the scripture, you can line the scripture up in different slots historically, and there's just different ways you can look at it. We're about to get to the part that I find to be most overlooked, and it just really is something that people should contend with and understand why sacrifice is. This is why obedience is better than sacrifice. I'll say that. I'm going to do the review. Gonna knock that down. Probably before I get to this next thing in the spiritual gumbo, I really, really, really want to get to knock down my first part of the rapture that already happened, and the history of the heathen, and just break down how this. It's just gonna be so deep. But anyway, I love you guys. I really do. I mean, I love y'all so much to death. I really do. Take it easy. I salute you. Until next time, Spiritual Gumbo out.